70 WOCA.
Ocala. Ocala, baby, what makes you look so good? Ocala, baby, what makes you look so good? Why don't you love me like I know you could?
Oh, I just was doing that for Chris.
Everybody,
I figured I just let it go and go. Let the music just go a really long time. There he is, right there. He's in our picture. All right, it's time for Ocala Magazine Radio, and Kelli Hart is in the studio, the effervescent Kelli Hart. The only person, by the way, who gets the title effervescent.
And I like it.
That and
That's a great
Alka-Seltza.
word.
That and Alka-Seltza.
Well, yeah.
It's effervescent. Kelli Hart is here today with a guest, and Sofia is all I know so far. Plus, Chris is here taking pictures and movies and whatever we call them nowadays. Good morning, Kelli.
Hey, good morning,
Good morning,
Larry.
Sofia.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chris.
Morning.
Yeah, I do have a guest with me today. Yesterday, we had an opportunity to go to the University of Florida and speak to a journalism and communications class, which I've had the pleasure to do a few times now, and Chris was able to go because now Chris is on board as a part of our team as the director of social
Now?
media.
I thought he's always been on.
Well, no. Well, the last time I did it, last year, he
Okay,
wasn't.
okay.
So since that last time, he's now on board.
Gotcha.
So I drug him along to talk to the class as well, because what his role is slightly different than mine, obviously. So it gave them two people to kind of bounce some ideas off of. And one of the students in that class was my guest today, which is Sofia Millar. And she approached me yesterday after class and wanted to come and watch the radio show. So this morning when she arrived, I sprung on her this idea that I would have her as a guest on the show.
Oh, you didn't know in advance. Oh, no.
I'm here and I'm ready.
So welcome to radio.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What do you, so is that what you're studying, journalism?
I'm actually doing, we have a news station at the University of Florida and we do shifts there. So in my curriculum, I actually work for the radio station as a news reporter. And we go out, for example, my shifts are on Wednesdays and we'll do 6-hour periods and we'll go out, we'll talk to people and we'll build a radio station from that.
Oh, nice.
That's fun, right?
Interesting, yeah.
And, because it's different than what we do, it was fun yesterday. We got to take a tour of their newsroom, which was nice, and to see all the student journalists, writing and watching news and reporting and, just with hopes of one day somehow being in the media in some way, shape, or form. So
We've had so many authors on the show who started out as journalists, and I've often asked them if there was a preference. Do you like writing news, which has to kind of stick to factual things, as opposed to letting your mind kind of go and invent things? And it's interesting that they all don't have the same opinion about it. Some of them liked sticking to the facts, and others liked being able to be more creative. So
yeah, and that's one of the things that we talked about yesterday was there's such a difference. I mean, if you want to be in the media, that's one thing, but then you really have to decide at some point what your passion is. I, for example, would not want to work as a daily news writer. I wouldn't want to have to turn stories over, breaking news, this happened, get the facts,
right.
Hammer it out real quickly so that it can go to print. And the people that do that, I'm in awe of, because that's a daily deadline, sometimes an hourly deadline of new news that has to continue to occur, where I write editorially for a publication that's monthly, and so it unfolds. Mine is more of a story. I want you to feel a certain way and to really think when you're done reading something.
Think. Kelli wants us to think.
Think and feel.
Which is so hard for me. No, I'm teasing. No, Kelli, at the core of you, though, if I could say this, your journalism core is about editorial stuff, about making us think. It doesn't have to be like normally you think editorial, think political editorials, and you're good at that too. But sometimes it's lifestyle thoughts.
Yeah.
The whole restroom thing and so many things in society right now. You gave us shed a different light on it than maybe some of us were thinking, and helped us maybe get a better grasp, a healthier grasp on what we're going through, as a nation.
Right. Well, and some stories are scary to write. There are some things that come up that
Why?
As a journalist, well, because you're very worried about, even though what you're delivering is the truth, you're worried about the person on the other side. Because if the truth is about that person, even though I'm doing my job and I'm abiding by my rights to free speech and press, if that other person's truth is not so clean or clear, you're always concerned about how that'll affect you as a person, how that person will respond. And because we are a publication that depends on advertising, we wonder how will that affect our advertisers.
That is interesting,
and
that's a tightrope.
It is a very tightrope because we don't want to produce anything that's going to turn off the same people that are helping the publication maintain. But at the same time, we don't want to feel limited by that in a place that we're cornered to where we can't deliver what we know is worthy editorial that the community should know or deserves to know. So it's always a balance. And as a writer, it's always scary because once you've authored that story, you have to worry about how that will make people think or feel, which if it's very good and positive, that's one thing. But if it makes people feel a little pressed, that can be very scary. Where, where news is kind of the same thing, but I mean, the facts are facts. It was 4:30 p.m. It was a blue car. It was a white male.
Those kind of stories,
I mean, what can you do? Those are just. But sometimes when you're writing editorially, because things can unfold and you can use adjectives more, you have to be very careful. That in the end, they don't know exactly your opinion because you have to be very neutral. So that can be difficult sometimes.
As an editor, do you assign stories?
To
other people?
Oh yeah. A lot.
Do you know which of your staff of writers want which kinds of stories? Like, you would know right away which kinds I like.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, so what I do is whenever someone approaches the magazine about being a writer, I'll always have them submit some samples, which tells me can they even write? Because
but let's assume that's
think
true.
They can write.
Let's assume you got that past.
So
that
I have
point.
someone who can write, but it'll help me feel out the way that they write. So if someone writes with a lot of descriptive words and phrases, I think to myself, okay, this might be a great person to talk about food, for example, because without me being there eating the food, I need to know exactly how it tastes, what the texture felt like, the way it felt on your tongue. And so someone who writes very, very descriptive, might be a really great food writer, but maybe not necessarily a good political writer. Keith Chartrand, for example, has written a lot of different political type pieces for us because he's very good at unfolding the story. So here's the story. Yeah. It kind of is what it is at this point and makes you think afterwards.
And did a really good job at what journalists are supposed to be, which is staying neutral.
Right. And that is very difficult.
Very
it
good.
is.
That is very
definitely
difficult.
And it's a good thing that we have people like you who are editors and who check up on us, because otherwise it's really, really easy to fall into that. Well, this is the fact, but let's angle it this way because it reflects what I feel, and it's very it's just hard to stay neutral sometimes, but you just have to.
Yeah.
Do either of you feel that being assigned a story out of your comfort zone actually expands your ability as a writer, as a journalist?
I would say definitely.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to go cover the boxing match because can't stand boxing. But somehow you turn that around in your own way, right?
Right.
I think it's interesting. I think it gives us a new perspective on a different story. Because you can have a person who has all this experience going, and it's very professional. It's very, this is what happened, this is why it happened. But if you have a brand new person going, then it's just a completely new outtake. And the way that you write it's like a learning experience. And I think it's valuable to do that.
Absolutely.
I remember when the vagina monologue thing was so controversial in town, remember?
Not anymore.
No, not anymore, but remember when that was a big deal.
Ocala's into vaginas now. Back then, we didn't even want to see the word in print.
Well, right, and that was the thing. When the vagina monologues were happening at the Riley Arts Center,
I'm a fan.
That was a big deal. That picked up. I heard that.
That was good.
You guys have totally thrown me off now. Let me get back to
back
to business. I'm professional. So when the vagina monologues was controversial and it was going before city council, and there were a handful, and I'll say a handful of people that were against it. Ocala Magazine ended up writing that story, and that was a difficult one for me to write and to be neutral because I was performing in the monologues.
Yeah.
But what you do is you have that group of people you can pass you can filter your stories through that will kind of keep you in check. So thank goodness. I mean, editors need editors too. So That's just the ball game there. And
Yeah.
I did that. I passed it off
Yeah.
to people and said, will you read this and be very honest with me? Do you feel like my opinion shines through what I've written? Because if it does, then I need to go in, I need to make some edits, I need to draw back a little bit. And you know, when you already feel a certain way and you interview someone, they can say 1,000 words, but there might be 6 or 7 that they strung together that really, if you just pick those out and use that quote, makes them look one way or another. And so that's what you have to be very careful is, am I picking this quote because in printing this quote, it will make them look good or it will make them look bad? And that can, that can be difficult sometimes to sort through because you're like, oh my God, I can't believe he said that on record. Oh, I'm printing that. And then you're like, wait, but are you printing that to make him look bad because you agree with the thing that, you know, he's talking about or disagreeing with that thing? So it can be very difficult.
There was a generational element to that story, too. The older
Right.
people pretty much had one view, and the younger people pretty much had another view.
Right.
The one thing I've always thought about the younger viewpoint is this, that if we didn't have it, we as a people wouldn't improve. We wouldn't change. Music is a great example of this because if all we had was the same old if Paul McCartney was the only one still writing songs, the music would be stagnant. It wouldn't.
Right.
We wouldn't progress. And so when you have somebody young like Sofia, obviously a young journalist, she's going to have a new spin on things, and we'll see it through different eyes. The world changes for the better.
Right.
You know, in bulk. I mean, I know there's bad things as well, but
Right.
I don't know. Just my thoughts.
Right. Well, and I think that for me is why I like writing editorially and less about newsy type things, because when you're reporting the news, you're reporting what has happened. There's not a lot that you can say or even do to think, okay, so now what? Well, now it's just a process.
Well, unless
of
it's
the court
political
system.
news.
Yeah, it's just what's the next story
Right, so
coming
what's the
up?
next story?
What's the next
With
part of it?
editorial, something can be happening within your community or even the nation or, you know, globally, and you can write about that in a way that says, here's what's happening, here's the facts, but at the same time, kind of leave your reader or your listener asking themselves, what can we do now? Because this is an issue, so how can we change this? With the news, it's pretty much, you know, hey, the Patriots won, here was the score.
I think it's like really like news is news. It's fact. It's exactly what's happening in the day to day. But editorial, you can reflect a culture off that, and.
But it takes a talent to do either one. It's not like, well, I'm just a writer, so I can just write anything. Because I can tell you, as a writer, I cannot just write anything.
Well, and there's the other part of it too. Is it interesting to the reader?
Right.
The one thing that I often wonder about with, like if you read like the New York Times, it's got such lengthy articles. You have so much time as a journalist to give it everything.
Yep.
It's sometimes a magazine has, it ends and you say, oh my gosh, that's it. The Star Banner does that too. Star Banner writes magazine format, I think, because you get to the end of the story, you go, oh my, I wanted to read more.
Yeah. What's the rest?
Yeah. So
yeah,
it's kind of like with radio, you're limited with time.
Very limited with space, very limited with words.
Yeah.
And so you have to really pack as much as you can into that space and hope that the person gets everything that they can out of that story. And, you know, sometimes you can have follow-ups, but very seldom do you do that in a magazine, because with the newspaper you can. You know, every day you can kind of unfold something. But if I bring something up in March and then it unfolds and I bring it back up in April, a whole month has lapsed, chances are they've probably already heard the follow-up via the news or the newspaper.
So what are your thoughts on the president saying to the press yesterday that the press isn't exactly reporting it straightforward? They're spinning the news. He's calling them fake news. I don't think it's fake. I think they're putting a spin, and everybody's got their own spin. So it depends on which magazine, which newspaper you're reading.
I mean, I can only speak for my publication because I know how we operate.
Right,
I know the behind the scenes. I know nobody pays us to write things. I know that no one pays us not to write things. I know that as a journalist, I'm not going to accept any kind of favors or barters or anything to either write or not write a story. But that's not always the case, and I can tell you that I know for a fact that that's not always the case. And so I cannot speak for every news outlet, but I don't think he's very far-fetched in saying that there is a spin. Because as humans, and we've all formed an opinion on things, it's very easy to let those opinions dictate what we are choosing to report. Even if what we're choosing is the facts, if we're not reporting the entire story, then we're doing a disservice. Truthfully, as journalists, we're doing a disservice.
You and I have something in common in that our bosses allow us to be ourselves.
Yes.
The Martones allow me to say
God.
whatever. There's no notes here. Say, Larry, don't say this anymore.
Right.
You're right. Linda gives you kind of free reign. She respects the integrity of you as a writer, as an editor, as a journalist, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that that's true for somebody who works for some of the other news publications.
Right.
I
We
think
are
sometimes
very fortunate in
the
that.
writers sometimes may write something and then the boss says, well, we can't put that out there. This
Right.
is not us, you know. So.
And I mean, and some of the things are not as easy. When I propose some type of idea to her, I mean, there's sometimes we have to really hash it out and think about, okay, how is this going to come off? Do we have both sides? Getting both sides is what's important. So if I get this side, I have to attempt to get this side. That doesn't mean I will. I may get a slam door or a no comment, but I know that I have to attempt to get all sides in order to be able to write something that I feel like is fair. And that's not to say that sometimes I don't say or write things that Linda's not like, ooh.
Does she do that?
Well, I mean, not everybody particularly
Really?
likes
Which
what
one?
I have to say. Not everyone particularly agrees with what I have to say. And there are people that will reach out to Linda and say, did you see what Kelly said on her Facebook?
And what did she say?
It's her Facebook.
Oh, on
it's-
Facebook.
Bottom
Okay.
line, it's her Facebook, and there's freedom of speech. And like of all people, how in the world are we going to try to dictate free speech when we depend on it in order to operate? So
We have to take a little break.
Okay, great.
We will be right back. Kelli Hart is here, and Sofia
Millar.
Millar. Millar?
Millar.
We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On Friday, partly to mostly sunny. Beautiful day, high 73 to 77. Increasing clouds Friday night, lows ranging from the mid-40s in the interior to mid-50s along the coast. Saturday, mostly cloudy, breezy, and warm with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm around in the afternoon. The high 76 in the north to 83 in the south and along the coast. Sunday, morning cloud and a shower or thunderstorm, then some sun, high 76 to 80. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Joe Lundberg.
The Daytona 500. It's the race that defines legends, and as the world's only motorsports stadium, Daytona International Speedway is the place that redefines what a race can be. You can experience it all and witness the next career-defining NASCAR moment at the Great American Race. But hurry, the 2016 race sold out, so don't miss out in 2017. The Daytona 500, Sunday, February 26th. Guarantee your seats at 1-800-PIT-SHOP or Daytona500.com.
If your home needs some work and you're ready to get the job done, then join On Top of the World Communities as they host the Home Improvement Expo this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Windows, flooring, solar power, remodeling, home entertainment. Plus, there will be great door prizes and giveaways. Experts from every field of the home improvement industry will be on hand to display their services and answer questions about the latest trends in home improvement. It's this Saturday at the Circle Square Cultural Center in Ocala. This free event is sponsored by On Top of the World Communities.
Don't get caught without your daily source of senior deals. Pick up your copy of the Senior Voice newspaper. It's your source for schedule and events tailored to seniors, with information you need, like a list of free events in the area. We even have Tom's Picks, a free referral for people who are looking for a company to do work for them. Tom's Picks will refer the company to you that fits your needs. And all we ask in return is that you tell them where you heard about them. For more information, call Tom's Picks, 352-804-1223. And pick up your copy of the Senior's Voice at most any business up and down the 200 corridor.
Now read Ocala Downtown newspaper online.
All right, 23 minutes after 10 o'clock. Kelli Hart is here from Ocala Magazine. Kelli's guest is Sofia Millar, and you are a journalist student at the University of Florida?
Yes, I'm a telecommunications student.
Telecommunications student. Okay, so this is what you want to do.
Yes.
Radio and TV, I'm
Radio,
guessing?
TV,
Yeah.
anything of the sorts.
And because of today's technology, it all becomes one. We basically, with Kelli, do like a TV,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
a
it's
primitive TV show.
Yeah, you can do all three of them in one.
Because look at the size of the camera. That means primitive.
It's a little webcam. Great, it works.
Absolutely. So I wanted to ask Sofia a couple questions too, just about what she does. So, in all of your experiences, what's probably the most unique story you've reported on?
Oh, so I was working for, I come from Tampa. That's where I grew up. And I had an internship with City of Tampa Television, which is like their government television station. So they let me do a feature story on one of the members of the community. So I chose to do one of the pottery stations that they had there, and it was just interesting. Like, I called it, I set it up, which was really stressful because it was the first time I had ever done that. So I was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't think I'm doing this right. But I got there and we set up cameras, we set up everything, and it was really unique doing a community-based story like that. It's the most editorial style I've ever done in TV or radio or anything like that, because I've written editorials and for newspapers and for blogs, but this was the first time I was doing something similar to that in TV, and it was just so interesting going there and experiencing it and having people be like, hey, do you want to do pottery here? Do you want to do this? Do you want to try this? Or just like they threw me on, oh gosh, what is it called? It's their wheel. They turned it on and I had to like sit there and try to make something while I was like filming on camera, and it was getting everywhere. And coming back to edit that and piece something together, it was just so interesting. I was like, well, what can I get out of this? There's a mother-daughter pair here. What does that say about this community? And it was just like, well, there's a lot of like relationships in here. There's a lot of love in this community, and how can I show that? And that was just so unique to me because it wasn't cold hard facts. It was just genuine like emotion and warmth that just showed what Tampa was like.
That's one of the perks I think about being in the media. I don't know, I'm sure it happens to you too, Larry. It's like, so once people know that you're with a magazine, you get offered so many random things.
Yeah,
I mean,
yes.
I get emails all the time. I've written this great book. Would you like to read this book? You know, and I mean, there's no strings attached. It's not, I'm sending you this book, so you have to write about this book. It's just, they sincerely want their product or their item in the hands of people within the media, which to me is smart. I mean, think about how many musicians started out with mixtapes and out of their
That's
trunk
right.
and just pass,
That's right. Yeah.
put them in envelopes, send them to radio stations, hope that one person plays that one song. And I think it's the same way with people who are trying to get their product into the hands of people that do a lot of talking, which is what we all do. I know that we went to the farmer's market on Saturday, and there was a gentleman that does the wheatgrass juice. And so I got to talking to him about it. And
Did you try some?
well, once I told him, I was like, let me get your card. I'm with Ocala magazine, and let us, we're going to take a picture and put it on our face. Well, here, try some. I was like,
Lawnmower?
it wasn't bad. It
Tastes
really,
like a lawnmower,
wasn't-
right?
To me, it tasted like
A lawnmower.
shucked peas. Like if you chewed on, like I don't know how you can taste shucked peas, but you know what I mean? Like when you're shucking peas, there's like this
The smell.
This smell.
Yeah.
That's
Taste the
kinda
way
what
it smells.
tastes like. Yeah. So, but it was like, oh, well, here, now I want you to try some. And it happens all the time. People will, I have this product. Will you just try it and let me know what you think? Hoping that this is a great product, or, oh, I've never heard about this wheatgrass juice. How's it made? And, next thing you know, that could be a story. But so it's really kind of a fun perk in that people will let you try and experience what it is that they have to offer. Like, come stay at our hotel.
Yeah.
I mean, try our product, taste our food.
I like Sophia. I like the way you when you told your story, how you threw in the human element.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is always the more interesting part. If I hear about shuck peas or something, I want to know who's the guy shucking the peas.
Right.
So I like the fact that you did a pottery story and you saw that side of it.
Yeah, it's what I like. It's what I try to put into my writing whenever I can. I personally feel like that's a thing that we can expand on in news, but it's also limited to a point because at some point your opinion falls in when you start talking about the human element, and it's just this very fine line of I can't put my opinion into this, but it's here and I don't know how to show it. And I think that it might just be a struggle that I have as a fresh face in this media industry, and hopefully I can work on it and develop it and be able to add it into my stories. But
yeah, I think you're like, you fine tune yourself. It's like one of my favorite things in news is when devastation happens, which is unfortunate. Sometimes it results in some of the most beautiful photos. You see that like photojournalists where they're hugging and they're crying.
Right.
I mean, it's unfortunate type news, but out of it comes some of the most emotional, beautiful pictures that in one snap tells a story, makes you feel a certain way. So we're all very fortunate in what we do.
But we also have to draw the line there. I know that I'm Chilean, so we watch a lot of Chilean news in my family. And there was one my mom sent me, and she was like, because she's always trying to send me little things that'll help me as a journalist, and she was like, this is what ethics is. This is what you need to strive for. And it was during, I want to say, an earthquake. the journalist was set up with his camera, and there were families crying and hugging behind him, and he was like, on camera you could see him waving his hand to get out of that shot, so you could still hear the people crying, but you couldn't see them anymore because that's their space, and that's the line we draw.
Yeah, we have benefits and some difficulties, but we're all pretty fortunate in what we do. So I want to thank Sofia for being with me today, and the University of Florida for having Ocala Magazine yesterday. And I encourage everybody to like us on Facebook because we have just everything going on there.
Kelli and Sofia, thank you. And Chris,
Thank you.
Good to see you again. Thank you for coming in today.
So much, Larry.
Coast to coast, baby, I believe that you're the most Ocala, baby. What makes you look so good?
I'm saying the three others are also on the short list. Former GOP House Leader Bob Michel has died. Michel, 93, served as top Republican in the House for 14 years in the Reagan and George H.W. Bush administrations. And Unilever, the consumer products giant, as brand names range from Dove soap to Hellmann's mayonnaise, has rejected a merger offer from Kraft Heinz worth $143 billion.